Welcome, everybody. This is Sports Libs, and this is Sports Libs podcast. I have a very special guest on with me today, the fantasy football analyst. I've been following this guy for about a year. It looks like we started around the same time, both of our accounts. And you guys know I'm only going to bring you the best, very respected analysts here. Actually, we did a little bet, and this is kind of like a little bonus.
We're gonna start off
You
with
know I
that.
had
All
to
right,
bring
all
that
right.
up. So he said that Corey Davis was gonna have a better game than Emmanuel Sanders,
Yep.
and obviously we know what happened in that one. But nevertheless, I do like Corey Davis. He's a big Corey Davis guy. He had 13 targets, so I would definitely be targeting him as a buy low. Um, but yeah, I have fantasy football analyst. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Next bet, you're not gonna be so lucky, but
Okay, okay.
start off like that.
We'll see who we tend to agree on a lot of players, so we'll see
Yeah, we
where
have
there's a
similar views.
discrepancy
So
this week, and we'll do a nice little friendly bet here again. Um, Last night, two interesting games, two blowouts. I don't think anybody saw the Jets coming in there to Detroit and blowing out the Lions. What'd you think of that game?
so from what I saw, a lot of the Jets players were saying that they knew the plays the Lions were gonna do, and I don't. It could have been from just. I think they were coached very well. I don't want to give too much credit to the Jets. I think Stafford just had a sloppy game. Matt Patricia just not a good start as a head coach. We'll say that. I think it was true. All head coaches went 0-6. All the new head coaches, or 0-7.
Oh
Every
wow,
single new head
I didn't see
coach.
that stat. That's an interesting stat.
Yeah, every new head coach lost their first game this week. So not a good start for them. I thought it was interesting. I don't know if we want to bring up one of the waiver picks now, but Quincy Enunwa actually led the Jets in targets.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was shocking to me.
I was not
Um,
that shocked, to be quite frank. On my live, I said he could have a good game. The reason for that is because Darius Slay was matched up for most of the night against Robbie Anderson, so they were
yeah,
kind of forced
hmm
to look other ways, and that was going to be the soft spot. Detroit normally has good run. I thought it was going to be like a really tight game. I thought the Jets could possibly win the game, but I definitely didn't see this coming, especially Stafford. I mean, he's got more weapons than he's had in previous years. He usually
Yep.
plays good at home. So I was really surprised to see Matt Stafford put up the clunker that he did.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Quincy Enunwa from 2 years ago, even when they had Marshall and Decker. Enunwa kind of started to evolve into the wide receiver one the Jets thought he could be, and he was supposed to be that in 2017. And he got injured, but it's interesting to see that Darnold is taking a liking to him. I had a feeling Robbie wasn't going to be good too. I don't like Slay on the outside covering him. But something else that stood out to me was Isaiah Crowell. I mean, I don't know if that's a product of just a sloppy game by the Lions or if this is something we're buying into. But he did have a lot more. He had a lot more snaps than Bilal Powell. Part of it is because Powell got injured, right? Am I wrong on that? I'm pretty sure
I
Powell
didn't
got
hear
injured.
anything about that. I don't know. So I was
Or
at
I
a
saw
bar
him.
watching the game, so
Uh,
it's a possibility.
I saw him come out on the sidelines. They were looking at him. I don't know if he hit his head or whatever the case may be, but Crowell saw a lot of work, and that was encouraging. So we'll see how that goes
I actually was
forward.
not surprised by Crowell either. Actually, Crowell was one of my sleepers. I was so tempted to draft him so many times. I saw the way he was slipping. I thought the Jets had big plans for Crowell this year.
Hmm.
I actually was surprised to see Powell get the start. I thought it was just going to be like a preseason thing because he got dinged up in
Yeah.
preseason. But Powell, to me, is just not a very good running back. 2 years ago, he was decent in PPR, but last year he stunk. And I'm just not a believer in Powell. I was high on Crowell. They signed him as a free agent. I knew they were going to try to play good defense, try to, not have Sam Darnold throw 30 plus times a game. So, um, I mean, I'm surprised he did this good because the Lions were
Hmm.
pretty good against the run D last year. So I was surprised he did that good. But I believe in his upside, and I would buy into this Crowell notion. I think he's a pretty good back with some RB2 upside as long as he could stay healthy.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely see that as well. Do you want to move on to Oakland and Los Angeles?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Another situation, kind of like what happened with Robbie Anderson, even though he had that touchdown, was you got Talib and
Yep.
Peters on the corners, and so I'm
Jared
not so
Cook.
shocked that I guess I'm shocked that Jared Cook went for 180 yards, but I
Yeah.
figured he could have a big game because where else are you gonna throw on this Rams defense, and what's your take on Amari Cooper? He's somebody I was high on coming into the year because he's got Gruden now, Carr's that finally healthy, and then
hmm
he just threw a total clunker. What's your thoughts on him?
So I got an update right before you called me. Actually, it was from Sleeper, and the notification was saying that uh, John Gruden was asked about Amari Cooper, and he said getting Amari Cooper going is easier said than done.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's not an encouraging sign from the head
No.
coach. With Crabtree gone, if Cooper really doesn't start to show up, we saw Nelson get some looks, but he was also covered in the outside. You got Talib and Peters in the outside. Should we buy into Cooks? I mean, who are the Raiders versing this week? I think Denver. They're versing Denver.
It might be another Cook game.
It could be another Cook game. They have a good pass rush. It's going to need to get the ball off quickly. Jared Cook's definitely the easiest target in the middle of the field if
Mm.
you want to do something like that. Um, how about the running backs? Marshawn Lynch, Jalen Richard. Jalen Richard was the highest scoring Oakland Raiders running back yesterday. And I mean, I know he's a really good pass catcher, but it's just frustrating as someone who believed in Marshawn, and they just seem to not want to give him the workload.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big believer in Marshawn. Obviously, he's better than standard. But it's not even Marshawn. I don't know. I just wasn't confident that they would give him. He is older now, and
Yeah.
I wasn't confident they would give him the 20 carries that I think he really needs to be successful. But man, did he look good on that touchdown run where he took like the
Yep.
whole team on
Carried
his
the whole
back.
team.
That was pretty crazy. But I'm not a believer in Richard either. So it's not like I would spend a waiver on Richard. I think
hmm
that was based on game flow. The Rams, let's face it, the Rams have arguably the most potent offense in the league. They were the top scoring team last year. So it's not like every game is gonna be, go this way where Richard's gonna play such a big factor. Maybe Marshawn Lynch will, give you that bang for your buck that you're looking for.
Yeah, definitely looks like a matchup kind of guy, but he's going into Denver next week, so that's never a good sign for a running back.
Although, I mean, for a pass catching back, it might not be so bad.
Well, yeah, I
If
mean like for Marshawn's sake.
Oh, for Marshawn, yeah, no, for Marshawn, no. For Richard, he might have a decent game, in that, and then
DFS
Denver,
maybe.
yeah, yeah, maybe like a flex play if he's cheap, for sure. Now, well, we kind of alluded to this a little bit already. Is the waiver wire? So I've been getting a lot of questions, as I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Number one, who's your top waiver, and would you consider? Let's say you have the number one pick, and on waivers, and you just lost Delaney Walker or Greg Olson. Would you spend that number one waiver on Jared Cook?
I think it depends on other needs. I do like Cook, and I think he's a good waiver addition. He could be utilized a lot going forward, but if you have more stressing needs, I think there's plenty of other guys you can get as a tight end if you need to. So
Mm-hmm.
if the Quincy Enunwa is available, I think he's definitely someone I'm grabbing over Jared Cook, especially because if he does maintain that wide receiver one role, we saw how successful Darnold was after his pick six last night. So there's a lot of potential value there. But if tight ends is your most pressing need, you don't really need wide receiver. Philip Lindsay's, I'm excited by him, but he's not someone I'm panicking to get. If in PPR, it's a little different, but I do like Jared Cook. So it really depends on who else you need.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
How do you
Yeah,
feel?
I'm not a believer in spending a number one waiver on Cook. I think Cook also started out good last year and then he kind of tailed off. He does have potential to be a little more consistent this year because we got Gruden, but I definitely would not spend a number one waiver on him under no circumstances. I rather keep and not even use my waiver and take a chance on. See, so there's a couple tight ends that I think have some potential upside. Like if a
Ricky
OJ Howard
Seals.
is available, I think
Mm-hmm.
Howard has more potential than Cook because Howard has tight end one potential. I think Cook, everything has to go perfect for him to be like a bottom tight end one, as
Yeah.
opposed to Howard. I was encouraged to see how much more playing time that he got in Brate. I thought the split would be a little more even, but it looks like he was anywhere from 70 to 80% of the snaps, which is encouraging. And if he gets that type of playing time, I mean, the sky's the limit for this guy. What do you think about OJ Howard?
Well, something about Cameron Brate is that he had a really good connection with Jameis Winston. Um, him and Winston kind of inherited that role together, and they had good chemistry. So if Ryan Fitzpatrick keeps playing the way he does, and he ends up being the starter, I think Howard is in a much better position. I still do like Howard, even if it is Jameis Winston, which it likely will be. But there is a lot of targets to go around between Godwin, Deshaun Jackson, Mike Evans, Howard, and Brate. So I don't get too excited about Howard, but I do like him a lot better if Fitzpatrick is the starter.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean Howard would be cool. Would it be ideal if you got that number one waiver? You could go with a Lindsey or a Namwa. Now, you're saying that you think he's going to be the Jets' number one receiver. You don't think that's going to be Robbie Anderson?
Robbie did have a really good connection with McCown, and I think Robbie's definitely he's a reliable deep threat. I think of it kind of like a Marvin Jones, Golden Tate situation where uh, we could see Robbie Anderson have a big role because of the big plays. We could see a lot of his stats being inflated because of the fact that he's such a good deep threat. I think Enunwa is going to be the higher target guy,
Mm-hmm.
more over the middle kind of guy, and then Robbie Anderson still has a lot of upside on the outside with the speed. More matchup dependent. What do you think?
I love Robbie Anderson. I have him in both my teams. I thought he was
Mm-hmm.
so underrated. He has a wide receiver one talent. I don't think he's a wide receiver on the Jets. Wide receiver one on the Jets, but like if he was on the Patriots or something like that, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I think yesterday was more of. I mean, Darius Slay like is that good. The play they did get was against some other corner, wasn't Slay. So
I
I
think Slay
still.
was banged up at some point too.
Oh, was
He
he?
came off the
Yeah,
field.
I didn't know about that. Maybe it was for that play. But I do think Anderson is going to be the clear Jets number one. However, I also think Inamwa is going to be, maybe high end wide receiver three. I think he will get a lot of targets. I just don't think he's going to get that many yards. I think he's going to be kind of like the guy they used to move the chains, because he is
Mm-hmm.
such a big body. I mean, he's got a tight end's body um, when he
Yeah, he's a
plays
big dude.
receiver. So I think Anderson though still is the number one, and I know they. I heard all off season they plan to move him all around. They love Anderson. It's just I think Detroit on the road with Slay. I think it was
Yeah,
more of a product of that.
yeah, for sure.
Um, excuse me. All right, let me put you on hold here for a second. We're gonna take a quick break, and then I'll be back with the fantasy football analyst. Okay.